The times are too grave, the challenge too urgent, the stakes too high to permit the customary passions of political debate. We are not here to curse the darkness, but to light the candle that can guide us through that darkness to a safe and sane future. JFK. Q. Rest in peace, Mr. President, JFK. Through your wisdom and strength, since your tragic death, patriots have planned, installed, and by the grace of God activated the beam of light. We will forever remember your sacrifice. May you look down from above and continue to guide us as we ring the bell of freedom and destroy those who wish to sacrifice our children, our way of life, and our world. We, the people. A prayer said every single day in the Oval Office. JFK, Secret Societies. Where we go one, we go all. Q. Drop 703. Welcome in, listeners. What you just heard are only two segments of information given by a military intelligence information outlet called Q-Team. Facts given so you yourself can choose to know, research, learn, discuss, and digest. To share several of the most recent ones with you, I turned to some wonderful Patriot friends gathered to offer you some insight into the Great Awakening. May they stir your patriot heart, and may it bring you to an understanding that the choice to know is yours. Where we go one, we go all.
A person's value. 1. Vote. 2. Monetary value, tax contribution. 3. Why is free thought ridiculed, challenged, and threatened when a person is opposed to the mainstream narrative? 2. Remains fixed, degree allowable by economic recession and expansion. 1. Remains a variable. 1. Dependent on a controlled system of information dissemination. What happens when 90% of the media is controlled and owned by 6 corporations? What happens when those same corporations are operated and controlled by a political ideology? What happens when the news is no longer free from bias? What happens when the news is no longer reliable and independent? What happens when the news is no longer trustworthy? What happens when the news simply becomes an extension arm of a political party? Fact becomes fiction. Fiction becomes fact. When does news become propaganda? Identity creation.
How does the average person who is under constant financial stress by design find time to research and discern fact versus fiction? Majority of people more prone to believe someone in power sitting behind a big brand news name. Do people, human psyche, tend to follow the majority mainstream viewpoint in fear of being isolated and or shunned? Mainstream is used for a reason. Dominate trend in opinion. If a majority of people believe X, then X must be validated true. Why do mainstream media heads within different organizations always use the same keywords and or catchphrases? Coordinated? By who? Outside entity providing instructions? Do they count on the fact that people, human psyche, are more prone to believe something if heard over and over again by different trusted sources? Do echo chamber tactics provide validation credibility to the topic, point being discussed? Threat to intellectual freedom? Would control over of these institutions, organizations, allow for mass control of population's viewpoint regarding a desired topic? Read again. Digest. would control over of these institutions, organizations, allow for the mass control of population's viewpoint regarding a desired topic? Logical thinking. Why, after the election of 2016, did D's and media corporations jumpstart a coordinated and planned divisive blitz intended to create falsehoods regarding illegitimacy of election, character assassination of POTUS through sexism, racism, and every other ism? Pre-post 2016 election, why were violent masked terror orgs such as Antifa immediately created and funded? Why were these organizations tasked with immediate intimidation, shutdown of any pro-POTUS rallies and or events? Why were marches immediately organized to counter and silence pro-POTUS rally and or events? Why were marches immediately organized which divided people into sex, gender, race, ism? When you control the levers of news dissemination, you control the narrative. Control of the narrative equals power. When you are blind, what do you see?
They want you divided. Divided by religion, divided by sex, divided by political affiliation, divided by class. When you are divided and angry and controlled, you target those different from you, not those responsible controllers. Divided, you are weak. Divided, you pose no threat to their control. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative and or stable livestock kept, sheep. When you are awake, you stand on the outside of the stable, groupthink collective, and have free thought. Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism, rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. This represents a clear and present danger to the constitutional republic of the United States of America. Q.
Decide for yourself. Be free from outside opinion. Decide for yourself. Be objective in your conclusions. Decide for yourself. Be true in your own beliefs. Decide for yourself. Be open to following the facts. Decide for yourself. Be strong in defending your beliefs. Decide for yourself. Be resistant to blindly accepting factless statements.
Those that attack you, those that mock you, those who call you, those who control you, those who label you, do they represent you, or do they represent themselves in some form? Mental enslavement.
The Great Awakening, freedom of thought, was designed and created not only as a back channel to the public, away from the long-standing mind control of the corrupt and heavily biased media, to endure future events through transparency and regeneration of individual thought, breaking the chains of groupthink, but more importantly, aid in the construction of a vehicle, a ship that provides the scattered free thinkers with a starter, new social networking platform which allows for freedom of thought, expression, patriotism, or national pride, feeling of love, devotion, and sense of attachment to a homeland and alliance with other citizens who share the same sentiment. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative and or the stable. When you are awake, you stand on the outside of the stable, groupthink collective, and have free thought. Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that position regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism, rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. When you are awake, you are able to clearly see. The choice is yours and yours alone. Trust and put faith in yourself. You are not alone and you are not in the minority. Difficult truths will soon see the light of day. Where we go one, we go all. Q.
The entire world is watching. Patriots from around the world are praying for America. We're all bound by a feeling deep inside. a feeling that cannot be publicly expressed for fear of ridicule, a feeling that challenges the mainstream narrative against that which we are told to accept and dare not question. Put simply, that people are being abused by those in power and time is running out. Remember the battles of Lexington and Concord. Give me liberty or give me death. For far too long, we have been silent and allowed our bands of strength that we once formed to defend liberty and freedom to deteriorate. We became divided, we became weak. We elected traitors to govern us. We allowed evil to prey on us. Those who claimed to represent us gave us false hope, made false promises. The evil and corruption only grew.
This is more than party politics. This is about restoring old glory. This is about saving our land and our people from those who wish to harm. This is about preserving our republic. This is about preserving our safety. This is about restoring our strength. This is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is about protecting our children. This is about saving America.
We are all God's children. We are fathers. We are mothers. We are daughters. We are sons. We are brothers. We are sisters. We do not look at race. We do not look at skin color.
We are united in these states of America. We are and will always be patriots. We must rise again. We must unite again. We must fight again for God and country. God bless America. Where we go one, we go all.
I would like to thank In the Matrix and Shady Groove for their kind permission in using that wonderful Patriot reading on this show tonight. I'd like to thank each and every Patriot who lent their voices to those beautiful words. And if it stirred a spark in your inquisitive mind, or sounded like something you might want to learn a little bit more about, tonight we're going to have a conversation with a good friend of mine, Kiwi Patriot, and he is going to walk us through that gate tonight, and we're going to have a conversation about the Great Awakening. Hello, listeners, and as I promised, I have my good friend with us tonight, Mr. Kiwi Patriot. Come on in, Kiwi.
Hi, guys. Really nice to be on here with you, Siska.
It's wonderful that you would take the time. I think it's absolutely fantastic because let me tell the listeners a little bit about how we met.
It's a good story.
It's so funny because when you first get intrigued by this, however, we all walk through the door or fall through into the rabbit hole in different ways. Some of us were intrigued, very young by mysteries and things like that. Or one thing that we always looked at, like for myself, it was the JFK assassination as a young child. I always heard adults talking about it and other things that happened along my lifetime that really sparked my interest. But when you first start looking into the Great Awakening or the Q movement or just any aspect or layer, because it's so many layers to this, you start meeting people that are like-minded and you start chatting with them in live chats of you might be in a show, like say a live YouTube show or a Periscope or Discord or whatever. And that's how I met you. And it's just so neat, the people and the friendships that you make. I mean, we were chatting for probably a year and a half, maybe almost close to 2 years now, before we ever got a chance to actually hear each other's voices. Such an odd friendship.
It is. I mean, I think we've both been really busy sort of the last year because the information is just coming out thick and fast. But I still very clearly remember the days of us in the live chat on YouTube and the shows and in the Matrix website, in the Q community, chatting on there as well, and many good chats with you.
It's always been so awesome because for any listeners who don't know, if you're in, just say, let's say YouTube show is on and it's live and they have a live chat, you're in there with multiple people. And it might, some of these shows I've watched and it started out with 10, 25 people. And then I watched them grow to, you know, some of them in the thousands all at once, you know. And it's really amazing. You start recognizing names and the handles that people use. And some of them are just so funny. But that's the thing. When you get in there and you recognize, say, you know, a pseudonym or a Kiwi Patriot or a Queued Up or something like that, you just all of a sudden you feel like, okay, I'm in my wheelhouse. You know, these are my friends.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, when you can ask questions and people don't think you're insane. They just answer them or give you their idea, and then you play off of that. It's wonderful.
And it really started turning into a sense of family. I mean, a lot of people that have been doing this for a long time now are really close, and we spend a lot of time in those chats. And it's just such a nice feeling to be, you know, watching this information coming out live and things on YouTube with people you love and you care about.
Absolutely. That's a part of this, that I started this conversation this way because I know that all the different people that I know in this, and I've had a chance to ask what got you started, or, you know, you listen to people's stories as they tell if they're a guest on another show or something like that. And they say, some of the most intriguing ones, I've been waiting 50 years for this, because they're probably, you know, 60, 70 years old, maybe a war vet. You know, they were in the military. They've seen many things happen over the decades, and they always had a feeling something was off or knew something was off. But when they spoke to family or talked to friends, they would, you know, that's a conspiracy. This is that. You're, you know, tinfoil hat. You're this. You're. And it's so difficult, you know, especially you can't talk at your job most of the time. Sometimes, you know, it depends on your situation. But it seems that most people were walking, you know, a solo walk for so long in their thoughts and the way they were thinking. And they would try to, you know, research on their own. And then what do? You have all this information and no one to share it with. You see,
that's the most frustrating part is having all this wonderful information, all these things we've wanted to know our entire lives that we've known something wasn't right with.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you find people you can share it with. It's amazing. But with us, when we'd meet in the early days in the Matrix chat show, I was drawn to that because of the movie The Matrix, and I do feel like one of those people that have always felt something's not right. Mm-hmm. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. Mm. And so that's why I was drawn to that channel. I think maybe that's why you were drawn there as well, because there's something about that movie that really sparks that, you know, we know something's not right. What is it?
Well, are you sitting down? Or at least hang on to something. If you're standing up, I'm going to make a confession. I just watched the Matrix movie a month ago.
What?
I know. Shh.
Oh my gosh.
Don't tell anybody.
I know people who've saved it. They're like, I'm saving that movie because I've heard it's, you know, really good and it's the best movie you'll ever see.
Shh, don't tell anybody. See, I didn't get it. It's so funny because I kind of came in the front door, or I was in there kind of waiting, and then everybody, I don't know how to describe it, but I went backwards. So when I first saw The Matrix, I mean, the channel, and we're talking about, of course, our friend in The Matrix with 3 X's. And I looked at that and I went, oh, look at all that. That's really pretty how he did that with all the green stuff falling down. That's kind of cool. You know, I had no idea. I don't even know how I really got there. I think, I'll tell you the truth. I was talking to my son today, and I remember hearing them on John's show. And now his name is gone now. John B. Wells. I knew John B. Wells from Coast to Coast, of course. That's where everybody kind of got a hold of John B. Wells. Then he left Coast to Coast. He started his own Caravan to Midnight. Well, I actually have a family member that worked with John for several years, many years. And one night I was sitting on the couch and this person called me and said, hang on just a second, I get somebody you might want to talk to. And it was John. And John and I talked for probably 2 hours about, this kind of stuff. This was before I ever even knew. I don't even think Q had started dropping yet. So we talked about things that were going on. We all felt this pressure build up, I think, in our own ways. Some of us were all JFK, conspiracy, or the Twin Towers, the 9/11s, the endless wars, whatever brought you to this, whether it might be politics or it might be something else. Nobody realized how far we had to back up off of our own tunnel vision. On that one thing, we'd back up a little bit more and we'd see more stuff. And we'd back up again. And now we're kind of taking a 40,000 foot view of everything. And we're going, oh, it's all connected.
And that's the really, really exciting part for me, is all these little pieces of the puzzle where you go back and you look and you learn a little bit more and you have a better understanding. But you still don't have the full picture. But with the information that's now available online that people are researching, you've got researchers that have been holding on to this information because they had no way of telling people about it. Maybe in books, but now with online communities spreading the information around, it's a different story. But now there's finally a chance to put all of the information out on the table and figure out just what is actually going on.
I think that's it is so intriguing, and it's almost exciting. I mean, you can just feel your adrenaline going when you start thinking about this stuff, and you're going, my gosh, all these pieces. Like, we all walked around in our lifetimes with, even if we're talking to somebody, I know people that do this that are 12 and 13 years old that get it better than I do. Because they're just clicking into the information. And then I talk to somebody again who's in their, 75, 80 years old that might not understand the tech part of it. But they're like, honey, we've been waiting for you guys to come along for a long time. We've been waiting 60 years for this. It's just like,
yeah, exactly.
There's no age, limit. There's no, it's the great, I don't know what I want to say. It just makes everybody the same. And that's part of it. Yeah.
It is very unifying.
Yes. There you go. It's a good word. And that's it. It's not just, the unification of it, but it's also, my gosh, I thought I was alone all this time. It's very much like on this channel, we do the paranormal, the supernatural, the conspiracy, a lot of WTF. We do all kinds of things. But when I had Craig Mason on the last time, when we were introducing people to the Great Awakening and some ideas of Q and some different things to look at, like Joe M's The Plan to Save the World. And we talked about going to thematrix.com, and looking at all of the human trafficking arrests and the resignations and things like that, just to give people... It's your journey. You got to walk it down the way you want to. You got to open the doors you want to open, and it's a personal journey. But even though it's a personal journey, you're not alone, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And I think for me, it has been a really personal journey, because a lot of the things that are discussed, and the information and the questions that are asked as you go down through this information that's being disseminated, are questions of yourself and your environment. And I mean, a lot of it for me has been quite inner spiritually reaffirming, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Oh, big time. Yeah. Well, see, to me, I guess I took a lot of avenues all at once too. I've always been very eclectic when it came to this. I was intrigued by the mysteries and trying to unravel, like I said, I was 12 years old and sitting at the dinner table going, they're lying through their teeth. None of this is real. And that was during Watergate with Nixon and, the whole shebang there. And I'm watching the news and I'm looking at my aunt and uncle and I'm like, you guys are like buying this? This is not. And they all had this attitude of everybody was busy. My two older cousins that I lived with, they were all busy in what they were doing. One was playing football and going to high school, and the other one was going to college, getting his master's. And who had time? These are just politicians messing around, and they're going to do what they're going to do. And I'm sitting in the midst of this, and I'm listening to the news. The TV was always on in the kitchenette, above us, just blaring all this stuff about what was going on in Watergate and Nixon, and I'm not a crook and all that mess. And my uncle's reading headlines out of the newspaper to my aunt, and I'm sitting there staring at my, hamburger helper going, I can't believe you guys are buying this. This is lies. It's all lies. And I was like 12. You know what I'm saying? So,
Wow.
But nobody would listen. Nobody would listen. And you go around and you walk around with that. You either stop and shut down, or you do it on your own. And, to hell with anybody that doesn't believe you. You know what you're seeing is wrong. And you just carry that. And then you get to this time where we are now. And I think everybody that came together, and like we said in the live chats, or if you're in, like, say, a Reddit, like you're on a board in Reddit and you're talking about this, or, everybody's found their own little outlets to have discussions. And it's amazing the feeling that comes over you when somebody says, I know exactly what you mean. That's what I've thought all my life. And it just, I'm not alone.
That's a really interesting point, because it's not that we were alone before, it's that there was no way for us to communicate with the people that were on the same wavelength as us. There were barriers in place, and they were there deliberately to stop and stifle the conversations that come from it.
Absolutely.
When you do find people of the same mindset or the same opinion on things that the mainstream narrative is trying to suppress out of the general conversation.
Exactly. And that's what we meant by what we said about being in the chats. And then when you're in the chats, and again, I'm talking about, like, say, the live chats in one of these forums, and you post something that means something to you, or you have a question. I was looking at this, and this seems kind of funky to me. What do you think? And then you wait, and then somebody grabs it and answers you and says, I feel the same, look into this, and sends you a link or sends you and points you in a direction. And then you have a little time to go and look at that and then come back the next day and go, I looked at that. This is what I think. And you start, having a conversation about this one, particular aspect of all of this. And that is amazing. And then when you're talking about it, 2 or 3 other people might jump in and say, well, this is what I found. What do you think? And then everybody looks into it. Because this entire thing, to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Kiwi, I look at this, like, let's step back outside of the box for a second and look inside to somebody who's never heard of this, and the only thing they've heard of is right-wing conspiracy theorists that are, for, it's so bad, and it's... it's a cult, it's all of these things. And I step outside and I go, you don't understand. If it is, it's the first group that's ever told you to think for yourself. This is nothing but facts and information that you can look at, discern it for yourself, decide for yourself, research it if you want to, look into it, dig deeper if you want. If not, here it is, leave it alone. That's all it is. It's information. Correct?
And it is definitely that's definitely what it is. But when you have the outside influence saying, basically parroting stuff they hear on the news or on the mainstream media, it's an alt-right conspiracy theorist group. Mm-hmm. Often they haven't actually even thought, what is that? I mean, what are they talking about? They just assume that that's what it is, mm-hmm. and they don't even know that they don't have an understanding of it. So mm-hmm. you really need to just question them and say, do you know what that actually is? I mean,
Right.
what do you define an alt-right conspiracy theorist group as? And that's a great place to start a conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also, I look at it too, being the fact that I've been in the, like I said, the paranormal and the supernatural for a long time. I find that people are afraid of what they don't understand. And when I started this podcast, it was my goal to just put some light into the world, whether it's, people are getting scared because of what they see on TV and the paranormal shows and all that. And that's fine. Entertainment's entertainment. And some of it, might be more real than others. But it's all about fear and just the unknown. And when you break it down, and you say, you don't understand, there's more good that happens, and there's more kindness involved, and there's more higher vibrational things like, say, angels, or something else, that's a good thing. And, or a loved one, or just, comfort, a comforting, something that happens that just comforts you in a loss or something along those lines. And that's the way I look at this too, is that people are afraid of what they don't know. Now, I'll tell you, when you go digging around, you're going to see some scary things, because this world is, I'm sorry, but I've always called this a prison planet, and I've always said that there's some very ugly, evil things going on this earth. And anybody that's ever been in paranormal, supernatural, they've heard about it. You've heard about it for years. And I think that this very well might be a light in the darkness. In fact, that's one of the things that's often said, is dark to light. They're trying to bring light onto some of this really dark stuff.
I think that's a really good point. There's no point trying to deny that there is darkness and really horrible things that go on in this world. But there's also some very old dogma that makes people think that it's human nature to be that dark and that evil, and we have to accept it. And I disagree. I think that darkness is coming from, in my personal opinion, something that doesn't reside in this dimension.
Correct.
It's not in this plane with us, and because you look at what it does, it deliberately tries to infiltrate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Infiltrate, and change this world, and it's changed it for the negative. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look back 20 years ago, and the family wasn't destroyed back then. People had morals, and it was a different place. But you look now, the morals have been destroyed, the family has been destroyed, and there's just horrific rubbish that gets put onto TV. Like, you look at the stuff on Netflix, it's just it's awful, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And it's done as a almost like a rhythmic deterioration and a desensitizing. Do you know what I mean? Of a nation. Absolutely. Globally, we've become so desensitized to it. I mean, I have multiple conversations when my kids were growing up, and I kept saying, you don't understand. It's like, I remember when I was a kid, people, and not that it's wrong or right, but it's just facts were, when I was a kid and shows were still black and white, like, say, I Love Lucy, they couldn't even sleep in the same bed. And now, when my kids just, became around like 10 and 8 years old, I could turn on the TV on cable and I could watch somebody blow apart, at 10 o'clock in the morning, or watch a zombie thing with their heads coming off and stuff like that. And I mean, if that's something that you want to watch, I'm not saying not to. I'm saying the difference in just 2 decades, maybe 25 years of the difference and the shift of what we've allowed to see. And I remember going round and around with video games when my kids, were little. And, that great big thing came out. Gosh, I can remember when I was a teenager and they were saying, putting censor stickers on albums. And I said, well, that's just going to make them sell faster. I mean, it's not going to, but it's amazing how fast everything's happened. And to me, you can look at the words, 3 words, the Great Awakening. What does that mean? And I want to ask you, before I say anything, what does that phrase mean to you, the Great Awakening? Okay, one more time, kiddo. I think I lost you part of it. Can you repeat that?
That's all right.
Go ahead. Say it again.
So there's a really deeply rooted satanic undertone and group that's been pushing forward into mainstream society, and you see it really clearly with like the Planned Parenting and the pro Planned Parenthood movement,
Mm-hmm.
where it's destroying the moral fabric of society.
Mm-hmm.
It's really eating away at it, and a big part of it is the view of like live for today, live for the now. We should have it now. We deserve it now.
Mm.
And I think that's a really big problem with what's been pushed on the TV and the media and things like that.
Absolutely. The me, give me mine generation. I mean, it's a big difference with, I can remember, you figure, I wasn't alive then, but I heard a lot from my mom and her siblings, coming up in, they were teenagers in 1945 when everybody was coming back from the war and, World War II. And, they wanted to have the house and the little white picket fence and the 2.5 kids. And they just wanted to, they didn't mind working for everything that they got. And they worked hard for it, and they saved their money, and they worked together as a team. And then all of a sudden it started switching, and it was very materialistic started hitting. And then we got so busy, we had to pay for all these things we had. So now 2 or 3 people in the house are working, trying to keep the bills up. And then all the tech came in, and the phones and the computers and everything else. And now everybody sits at the table and looks at their phones, and nobody talks, and we broke away from it all.
Do you remember a show called Beyond 2000? It was about science and advancements in science and gadgets and things that we were going to have after the year 2000.
I think I do, yeah.
I mean, whatever happened to all that awesome stuff? It's been 20 years now.
Yeah.
We should be so much more advanced. We shouldn't be slaves to the technology that was promised to help us, but we are. I mean, clearly, whatever they've been saying is not what they've been doing.
That's true. That's true. And I'm a believer in, I had another conversation. We were talking about, oh gosh, this is going to kind of go off subject a little bit, but it makes sense. Have you ever heard of the book Camellia?
No.
Well, that's one that you should check out because that was a gentleman that had been getting what they call targeted, and a lot of experimentation and things that he saw that were available, a lot of cloaking things, a lot of different technology like that. And my thing has always been, I think a lot of the technology exists. I just don't think we have it. Because when I was a kid, it was the Jetsons. We were supposed to have, flying cars, and we were supposed to have all this wild, crazy stuff that we don't have, And that brings me to a lot of things in this that, back to the Great Awakening and the Q drops and everything. I just want to make sure people know going into this that there's nothing to be afraid of. I mean, if you read a Q drop in the beginning of this episode, I read a few Q drops. We had wonderful Patriots. And thank you, by the way. I hear you had an awful lot to do with that Patriot reading.
Look, to be honest, I read those Q posts, and in my heart, I felt the idea come to me. And I thought, what if we could have some awesome people from around the world just read a section of it and just spread it out around and have people listen to it? Because for me, it really sort of hit me in what I call the feels. Like,
yes.
I felt something.
Yes.
So yeah, I got a little bit of a push from In the Matrix, who runs the In the Matrix channel, and he said, do it. And so me and Pseudonym set about sort of dividing it up into parts, and we just said to everyone, here's what we're thinking of doing. And then it just came together from there. It was really awesome.
It is awesome. And I think the most spectacular thing about that Patriot reading was this. Not only it was several of the last what we call Q drops, was it not? Altogether,
it was the last three, minus the fourth one, which was just a post of the flag.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions, because to me, it was almost an affirmation for our timing, if you know what I mean. Everything that's happening now, and it was a it was almost like a summary again of everything that's getting
totally
posted.
agree,
yeah, getting posted for we're going on what, almost close to 2 years now, are we not? Since when?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so it was like a summary of all the feelings of, this is what you don't forget. You're not alone. You noticed something was wrong. For those listening still to the mainstream media, why are you not getting the truth? And look elsewhere. Don't take what they're saying. Look elsewhere, because they're cutting it. They're taking it out of context. They're just making it up. They're all saying the same things over and over again. The narrative, what we call 4 a.m. talking points. They all get their talking points at 4 a.m. and then they go out and repeat it. That's all they're doing. They're basically actors. Journalism is a dying occupation, I think. I've seen some of the best journalists since I've been looking into alternative media. Whether, like we said before, whether it's YouTube or Periscope or Discord, whatever. And that, I'm seeing journalists there. And they're so careful, Kiwi. It's, I've met some of the best characters trying to give the news now. They say, that's another thing that comes from this movement. We are the news now. And that's so true, because I've seen these people in their own style, in their own way. Everybody's got their own little thing that they do, their own personality, but every single one of them is extremely careful about what they say. And if for any reason they get something wrong, they come back and say, "Oop, I was wrong. Here it is, corrected." And that's something you're not going to find on the MSM.
Exactly. They care, and that's the other thing, is that they're very invested in the journalism that they're doing.
Yes.
A lot of the time, like each different YouTube channel from the alternative media that I've been watching from the start, 2 years ago, each person's got their own strengths, their own things that they relate to personally, and their own honesty, and that's what makes it so attractive. And I think there's enough different YouTubers out there telling the truth now to find someone that you can relate to and is producing the kind of stories and information and facts that you're interested in.
Right. And some of them do it where they'll just read right. If say we had a Q drop is what we call it. And again, what we mean by a Q drop, it's just information dropped by the Q team, which is, again, I believe, a military information outlet, basically. We had to find a way. Explain that, Kiwi. They had to find a way to get us information because we weren't getting it from the newspapers and the MSM, right?
So what happened is the newspapers became owned by 6 large organizations, and Saudi Arabia owned a huge share in one of those companies, like a controlling stake. Mm-hmm. So the information that was making it through the mainstream media journalism was only information that these large corporate entities wanted, and not just corporate entities. Some of them had, covert intentions, or actually wanted to dismantle the US and the Western world in some situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's crazy. Also, if people want to dig too, I highly suggest you start digging into who are the CEOs of these companies and who are they related to, and why is that a problem? You start looking into that. There's a rabbit hole for you. That's just it. There's so many directions. And every time I start feeling myself going way out, to the other sides, and because sometimes I'll follow something, a trail, and see where it leads, I always try to pull back and regroup. And that's what I was, telling somebody the other day. I was saying, you have to stop and regroup, back up, and take a deep breath and come back, to the start, and then go back out again, because you can get caught up. And I liken it to, again, for, anybody that's been in this a while, going back to the JFK assassination. The whole thing for me, like I said, was I believe a nation hit its knees that day. And it wasn't because JFK was so loved, because if you ask anybody that tells the truth at the time, he really wasn't. They had that whole Camelot thing, and women were very caught up in what, his wife was doing and what fashion she was wearing and all that kind of stuff. It was all this Camelot thing. But that was an illusion. He was he was really disliked by a large majority of people. That's not the point. The point is the man was our president, and he was shot and killed at 12:30 in the afternoon on Dallas Highway, and then they lied about it. And they tore apart the car and all the stuff you can think about. And then they told us one guy did it, and we bought it for years. And then they threw out, I think, the truth, and there's a name for this, but they take the truth and then they throw a bunch of disinformation in there, and just everybody's so confused about it, their minds can't handle it all, and they just say, oh, forget it, and they just let it happen. And that's
exactly.
been going on. Yeah, go ahead.
And that's one of the really brilliant things about the operation that is the QAnon and the Q drops, is that we're given enough information that it can give us a 40,000 foot view. So we might go down a rabbit hole, which is when you find a subject and you find some new information and you start looking into it and researching it, and it leads to other information, and you can get a picture of what really happened. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it can get muddied because there is information that's put out specifically to confuse you when you're researching a specific subject. That's a thing, they actually do it. Mm-hmm. So what Q's given us with some of the outline of what's been going on in the world, it gives you a 40,000 foot view, so you can come out of the rabbit hole and you can just sit there and you can look at the whole picture and say, this little bit doesn't fit. I'm going to put it to the side. Mm-hmm. It might be important, but I don't think it is. It seems to be disinformation. That's what the drops have taught people, is discernment, the ability to figure out, based on all the information, which information is not reliable.
Mm-hmm. To get us thinking again, because I think that there's been a long time that we weren't asked to think. We were programmed. We were, when we went to school, it was just, here's what I want you to learn, recite it back to me. And there wasn't a learning process. There wasn't a thinking.
100%. And the Common Core that was rolled out with Obama is the epitome of dumbing down a nation so they don't question things.
100%. That mixed in with everything else. Listeners, can you see what's been happening? So then along comes out of nowhere, it's almost like having... it's so weird, but sometimes people get confused when they look at it because they think it's such a big picture. And you have to take into mind of somebody just walking into this right now and hearing the things about alt-right and all this. Well, I'm telling you right now, I'm far from alt-right. You know what I mean? I don't I take people one at a time. I don't judge by the group. I judge by your individual character and the things that you do. That's how.
And most people do.
Life. Absolutely.
Most people do. But they want us divided, and they create the groups, and they make us parrot their group words, and they make us put each other in groups. Yep. And we're not. We're all humans, and we all want to do our own thing and be happy and enjoy our lives. That's really what we want. We don't want to be called, you're a white supremacist, or you're a racist, or you're, it's just ridiculous.
It's the
we don't go around thinking
thing.
that.
And I've heard from the outside, when people don't understand, they're outside in, they're like, oh, that Q group, they're so full of hate. Listen to me. The Q drops that you just heard read by patriots around the world, this is global. This isn't just America. Those are people from around the world had read those. And there wasn't a word of hate in there. If you felt anything, you felt passion. You felt elation. You felt a unification of people that came together to still be able to stand as an individual. I matter. I matter. Because for years upon years upon years, we were told, you don't matter. You're just a number. You go to work. We're going to take this amount of money for your taxes, and we're going to let you think you got something to say about what's going to happen with your taxes, but we're going to do what we want anyway. We're going to send pallets of money, literally pallets of money to other countries, while we have homeless people here in our streets, while we have homeless vets in our streets who actually took the oath, wore a uniform to protect this country and our freedoms, sitting on the sidewalk with a sign.
And I think that's the easiest way to explain to someone what USAID was about. Pallets of cash bill dollars.
Yes.
This is Obama sending to Iran when you've got homeless people, when you've got vets, when you've got your own people struggling. Mm-hmm. And this money wasn't going to what they say it was. It wasn't going to aid in the average person over there who needs a bag of rice for a week to live. That's not what it was going to.
No.
It was going to build infrastructure for divisive factions or like guerrilla groups to upset regimes.
Exactly.
It was all about war.
Yes. And people think about this. Did you ever wonder why we've been in these endless wars with other countries that, we really had nothing to do with? I mean, you can go all the way back. For Pete's sakes, we were lied to about Vietnam. We were lied to about so many things. And that does not take away from one hero who wore a uniform that fought and gave their last full measure of devotion in any one of these fights. I am not saying that. I am saying that it had to do with those that were moving the chess pieces here and in other countries. Exactly. Not the soldiers.
Well, when we think of other countries, we came up through the school system, and I'm guessing you were probably a lot like mine, where you had a geography class and you were taught that there were these different countries, and there was Aztecs over here and the Chinese trade routes over there, and the world was quite separate.
Right.
That's not at all the case. Mm-hmm. These people have been running a one world government for a long time, since well before we know. Mm-hmm. And we're told, we're given like little stories saying, the New World Order's planning to do this and they're going to take power. They've already taken power. They've had power for a long time. Mm-hmm. We're just starting to see this now. We're starting to realize it. Absolutely. And it's all going to change.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're listening to this, or you're, somebody you love is listening to this, and you're near it and you happen to hear it, and you still think that the same people aren't making money off of both sides of a war, you need to go back to square one and start again. Because you've been believing it. You've been fed this garbage for years upon years upon years. And it's right under our noses, and your tax dollars are paying for it.
Exactly. I mean, just look at what President Trump's doing with, you call it a payroll tax over there. Mm-hmm. So the tax on your income is being reduced, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep.
So from what I've learned about America, payroll tax is a completely unnecessary tax. You should be having your tariffs pay for that gap in your treasury, not your coming out of the tax out of the income you earn as a citizen.
Absolutely, and each person globally has been taken advantage of for years and years. I mean, if you haven't watched over the past, let's say 30 years, and this is from this side of America, I have no idea what is happening in other countries, but I assume in some countries it's the same, where an individual, like I said in the beginning, you got your house, you were able to pay for it, you were able to make it on one paycheck, usually, everybody working together, and you were able to pay for that house. You were able to work in a company for 20, 25 years. Then you got the retirement party and the gold watch and the thank you. And then you had a little retirement to lean on, or a pension, and you could make it. And they kept moving the bullseye until it's almost impossible to make it now. I mean, you've got so many people out there working, busting their tails. And again, you've got that situation where you have the family, and the breadwinner in the family gets sick or falls down and breaks their leg and is out of work, and you've got garbage insurance, And the next thing you know, you're homeless. That shouldn't happen in a country that can send pallets of cash to another country for foreign aid. What is happening?
Exactly.
The Q
exactly
movement,
right.
the Q movement, whatever you want to call it, the information that you're getting is letting you know this is what's been happening. If you want some juicy tidbits, look up Ukraine, the final peace, and see what that brings you. They've been taking money and laundering it, and then, oh my gosh, you are going to get so angry. And then at that one point, you just step back and go, hold on a minute. I can get angry at this because I'm just finding out about it. And the pieces are starting to click. Then remember what I said. Stop. Take a deep breath. Regroup. And then go back and say, okay, what can I do about it now? There's more people that feel like I do. And we're starting to get the information. And we're starting to understand it. And it's solid facts. It's not some fantasy, stuff that's out there. The facts are there, people. And
it's actually, there's actual change being affected now as well.
Yes.
I mean, 2 years ago when Q first started dropping, this was just intel. It was just information. It was unproven.
Right.
But it was fascinating.
Yeah.
2 years down the track, it's proven.
Yes.
It's now fact. And things have changed. So much has changed. You look at when President Trump went into office in New Zealand, here they were talking about, will we be going to World War III over North Korea? Okay, when you're ready.
Go ahead.
So for me, it was a really significant moment when in New Zealand, everyone here was taking bets on what would happen when Donald Trump, if he won and was elected, what he would do, because most of the news here and people's general opinion was that it was going to start World War III with the missile problem in North Korea, and North Korea developing long-range missiles. And
okay, guys, we were having just a little problem with the internet connection here, and I'm going to get Kiwi back on the line. We're going to finish that because we were just getting started there. Hold on 1 minute. All right, we're good. Go ahead. You were saying about in New Zealand, you guys were taking bets on. You thought that World War III was going to start when Trump got elected.
Genuinely, at least half the population, if not more, believed that's what was going to happen. I mean, the lunchroom talk would be, do you think that Trump's going to start a war with North Korea? Is that what's going to happen? It was a little bit, people were kind of on edge about it here, and we didn't know any better. That's all the mainstream media were telling people. And at the time, I wasn't what we'd call an anon, or I wasn't involved in the Q movement, and I didn't know how to research this stuff for myself, so I had to rely on what was being said on the TV. And when it came to pass that Trump started making inroads into North Korea, and he settled the situation down. I mean, it was, and then there was that agreement where they began to stop the nuclear testing in North Korea. It's like, hang on a minute. Trump's totally disarmed the situation. There's not going to be any World War III.
It's amazing.
Where did they even get this crazy idea from?
It's amazing.
And that was when I said, look, someone's lying to me here. Mm-hmm. What's going on? Yeah. And I started looking, and instead of watching TV for my news, I started looking online and on YouTube channels, because for me personally, I'm not a very strong reader, mm-hmm. and there are some people out there who do shows where they just read the Q post, or they just read news articles that aren't from these mainstream outlets. When I say mm-hmm. mainstream, I'm talking about like the six big CNN, six big corporations, Disney, that are all owned by, it's just crazy that the media has been consolidated into the control of six companies from, I think it was 50 something, not that long ago. Yeah. So for me, that was what got me started. And then I found the Q post, because these people were talking about the Q posts on these channels. And I thought, what are these Q posts? Mm-hmm. And then shortly after there, I think I ran into you, and we started chatting and learning together.
Yeah. And that's exactly what this whole thing is. Anytime, for the listeners out there, anybody that's thinking about, what is this about? I had a lady, when I did the episode with Craig, excuse me, She was in Canada, and she said, never been a fan of Trump, but I always thought there was something else going on, and there's stuff going on here too. Can you tell me, a little bit about this Q, or who were the people that, the shows that you were talking about? I said, well, all the links are going to be in the description, because I can't point you in too many directions. I can't, because, excuse me, the person that's going to resonate with you, you got to find them. And I don't recommend one. I recommend multiple. And then you can kind of step back, and then that's the way I go with anything, whether I'm trying to do an herbal cure for myself or something like that. I don't believe just one thing. There's facts, and I'd rather get facts from multiple people that don't have a, they're not trying to sell me something. They're just trying to, they're not trying to sell me vitamin C. They're just trying to tell me what natural vitamin C will do for me. And then I can go and look up in another direction, okay, vitamin C in this or this kind of, and put all that information together and get my own. And that's what this is about.
That's a really good point. What we're used to is being fed a sales pitch, basically, in the mainstream media. And most of our lives, they've been telling us what they want us to buy and what they want us to do. And these new people that have been doing these Q posts and talking about the truth, they don't have an ulterior motive. Mm-hmm. They genuinely just want to get the truth out there. They want a world where truth is free and everyone has the opportunity to see it. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people have trouble letting go of the preconceived notion that these people must want something. Mm-hmm. They don't. Mm-mm. They don't. I mean, they want the world to be a better place, for sure. I think we all want that. Mm-hmm. But I donate all my time for free. I don't even consider it donation. I consider it my duty as a human being on this planet. If I know something that's going to help other human beings, it's my duty to pass that on to anyone who wants to know.
Right. I mean, this is just it, folks. If you were on, let's just take all of the outside stuff in, because, some people get really scared by when you start bringing in, politics and bringing in anything else. If you were on, say a desert island, and you were there with 10 people, and you found out because you were over here on this island with Sam, and Sam ate, pulled some fruit off a tree and ate it, and it turned out to be poison, and Sam died. Would you not tell the other people on the island when you bumped into them, hey, don't eat that fruit, it's poison? Or maybe you want to look into it because that guy got hurt with that. If we are here and we're trying to tell you, and I'm so sorry that so many people still believe what they're being fed, this is your right, this is free will. If you're fine, just, chugging along and doing what you've been doing and believing what you're reading in the newspaper and believing what you're watching on MSM, that is your personal business and that is your personal choice. I'm just telling you that there's information out here that's going to change all that for you if you just take a look. But if you don't want it, that's fine, because that's where a little, I don't know whether you want to call it a motto or mantra or a saying that always says, where we go one, we go all. Because if the globe is saved, you're going to get saved too. You're gonna profit from being released from all this garbage and the lies that people are been feeding us for years. It's like being on a big ship. As long as the ship's floating, you're going to float too. We're not trying to separate. Yeah.
No, I mean, and that's exactly what this world is. We're all stuck on this big ship together. Mm-hmm. And contrary to what we've been taught in schools, it's not that big of a world. It's actually quite a small world.
Yeah.
What we do over here impacts other nations, and it has been doing that for a long time. And I guess a lot of us didn't realize how much power we had, because now that we can come together and we can share thoughts and we can find our own truths and facts. Mm-hmm. We have a lot more power to let other people see what we've found and get their input and grow as a civilization like we should have been doing a long time ago, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And that's the cool part about all this, and I mean, you can look into it and just find one thing. There's so many people out here that are going to point you in different directions, like, Kiwi and I both said, and like, Craig Mason said on the last episode, and we said, okay, pick 3 places if you had somebody that was brand new to this. What 3 different places would you point them into to try to get some information? And we did mention, on inthematrix.com, there's so much research done there by multiple people. It's not just Shady and Matrix, it's multiple contributions from many different patriots that are very good at looking up resignations from large companies, multiple listings, human trafficking arrests, multiple listings. There's videos on there of information of what you're interested in. Joe M's, what is it? The Plan to Save the World videos.
Plan to Save the World, that's a brilliant video.
It is absolutely brilliant. Just watch that and see if that resonates with you in some way, if you want to dig deeper, dig deeper. If you don't, and you just know about that, hey, that might be your happy place for a while. Just stay there and just let that sink in for a little bit. What other places would you, some of the different places that you know of, whether it be YouTube or Discord or, Reddit, whatever, where would you send some people?
I would use a search engine. I would say type into Google or YouTube, QAnon, The Great Awakening, and just see where it leads you. I mean, that's going to take you to every single one of the people that I know that have been in this movement for a long time, as well as the people that disagree with it. It's going to give you both points of view if you type that into a search, and you can go with your gut and just look at the information and make a decision from there. But it's a good starting point, because if you type in QAnon into a search engine and go from there, I'm not suggesting I'm not trying to bias the information in any way. And what you find yourself interested in is where you'll find yourself taken to. And once you get there, if you do it on YouTube, you'll be lucky to find, or you'll hopefully be lucky enough to find a live chat. And I really encourage you to get involved in the live chat. Just get into the live chat and say hi everyone, or hello, or wave, and just follow the conversation. And if you're in any of the shows, like in the Matrix, we're in chat there, and we're there to help people who have questions. So a lot of these chats, like Blessed to Teach, is a really good show. We have mods and people in the chat rooms now, and we're very happy to help anyone with any questions and point people in the right directions. It's a really incredible environment. It's not like the old style of news where you just sat there and you were told what to think.
Right.
You can come into these chat rooms, watch the show, watch the information, and if something resonates with you and perks your interest, you can just type into the chat, hey, does anyone have any information on this?
Right.
And more often than not, someone will reply and give you somewhere to go look.
Right. And a lot of people too, I find out, they've been so misinformed by what's going on right now with the administration. Trump, you might not like Trump at all, and that's fine. I don't see too many people that know a lot about Q that don't like Trump, because we get it. We got it. We're understanding. This is our shot. This is not another 4-year election. This is different, and that's huge. I mean, it's not just him. It's a team of people working to try to undo and unravel these harms that have been done to not just this country, but globally. And if you want to just watch how he has been welcomed into other countries, I think that is a huge eye-opening thing. How he was welcomed into India, how he was welcomed when
India. Wow. India was incredible. 120,000 people.
Yep.
To go there and wish namaste. I mean, that was just incredible. In the world's largest cricket stadium,
yes,
full of people there to greet Trump. It was incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in Saudi Arabia, I mean, that was one of the first ones. And, all over. Just watch it. Google the videos to watch it. Don't watch what they put on the news. Go behind the scenes and get the real footage. Get the real footage of a Trump rally. I'm telling you.
I was going to say.
Oh, my gosh. He was here in New Jersey.
Do you know what?
Oh, my God.
Do you know what sold me on on Trump was a Trump rally. So after we'd gone through the North Korea thing, and I said, okay, someone's lying to me. Let's go looking for information. I stumbled into a Trump rally, and I saw an uncut, unedited Trump rally, and went, nothing I know about this man has been true.
Right.
It's all been a lie. I couldn't believe it. It was incredible.
It was incredible. I mean, we've been, sorely duped, guys, for years. And I remember different elections along the way, throughout my lifetime. I don't know how many presidents I've seen, quite a few. And it just got to the point where, the lesser of the two evils, they're all the same. And it's all, we're going to be duped, and the money and this and that. We got suckered into this slow boiling of a frog. And if you don't know what I mean by that, you put a frog in water and you slowly heat up the water until, everything's fine at first, until you realize you're soup, because that's what's been happening to us. And now's the time where that whole system got shook, and now it's different. And, and it's okay if you're not ready to see all that. And it's okay if you're not ready to see that. That's fine, because like I said, we're doing our very best. A world full of patriots. And yes, if you're a patriot because you have a love of your country. It doesn't have to be this one. People misunderstand that. It's just a passion for your country. You want your country to succeed. And we're doing our very best. Everybody's doing their own thing, whether it's just trying to get out information, or doing a YouTube video, or picking up a mic, or making a meme, or trying to help somebody along. I'm sorry, but you have the wrong information. I'm more than willing to listen to what you have to say, but how about looking over here at this and seeing what you think? And if your mind gets changed, I'm here to answer your questions or point you to somebody who can, because this is important. This is a rapid unraveling of a lot of things. And if you don't believe that, look at this country and what was happening to this country. All of our factories got sent to China, got sent over to Mexico, and it just kept happening, and people were losing their jobs. And now we have these literal ghost towns. Look what happened to Detroit. I remember Detroit Rock City. I mean, that's where all the cars were made. You get a job there when you were 18 and retire, just like we said earlier, and, have a good retirement, a pension, and raise your family on a job like that. It was a good job to have. And all of a sudden they were gone.
That's a really good point, because probably 2 years ago now, while I was still watching TV and Netflix, I'd see shows from Vice on Detroit and how dilapidated it was, and it was heartbreaking. And then we had, before that, President Obama was saying, we just need to prepare for this. This is the way the world's going. There's no choice, there's no option. And then you get Donald Trump come in, and in 2 years, 2 years, he's almost undone all that damage. I mean, you've got Obama saying this is impossible.
Yeah.
Have you got a magic wand?
Yeah.
And you can't deny it anymore.
You can't.
Donald Trump took a really desolated economy, and he's built it into something better than it's ever been. I mean, that's no accident.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you start digging into this, folks, you're going to see that it's not just Donald Trump. We say Donald Trump, but it's not just him. It's, it's a whole group of generals who absolutely had it up to here. They watched their military get absolutely depleted. We had no ammo. We were sending our best stuff overseas, and that's a fact. Did you ever wonder why during, like Desert Storm and like that endless war that it just kept bleeding into the next, we were over there for so long, and we were leaving good equipment. We were leaving tanks and ammo and all this other stuff. And instead of the first time in our history, I mean, go all the way back to the Revolutionary War, if we had to DD out of a place, we had to leave. We destroyed the equipment behind us so our enemy couldn't have it. And for some reason, in the past 20 years, we've been leaving equipment over there for them to use against us. Are you kidding me?
There's a very good reason. That was deliberate.
Sure.
And I mean, there's so much evidence out there. If people will just look, you'll understand exactly why that happened, why it was happening. It relates to the pallets of cash.
Yes. Yeah. And all this has happened under our noses, people. And everything that we're saying here, you can pick one thing and just follow that one thing and see what you think about it. Discern, it's your own, it's your free will to want to understand a little bit more about it. And once you understand that one thing, that's what we're talking about. You start to wake up and you go, what? Well, if that's not true, this must not be true. Let me check on that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Great Awakening.
And that's what we call going down a rabbit hole, following the information.
Yep. And you start to wake up, and then you start, I want to know more, and then you start digging in, and you go down your own personal path. Everybody's got their own, journey and their own story in this. But once you get to that point and you start seeing that, when he gets up there, he had a choice. That's why he wouldn't get off of Twitter. He said, of course I'm not going to get off of Twitter, because you're saying I said this, and this is what I said. And I'm going to go straight to the people, and I'm going to tell them this is what I'm saying. So they know, exactly what I mean, because you've been going behind their backs for so long, and I'm going to tell them this. And it took a while for people to start understanding what was going on. But now when you sit back, almost 3 years later, you're sitting back and when he says something, you get this warm smile over your face because there's a knowing. Inside you go, he's up to something. Watch what happens next, man. It's so cool.
Cisco, do you remember hearing him say fake news? Your fake news, right at the early days.
Right.
And did you know what he meant by it back then?
When I first heard it, did I know what he meant?
Yeah.
Fake news. Let me try to dig back. It's like going through a lot of. Phew.
I didn't know what he meant.
I knew what he meant. Well, I think when we talked before, I told you kind of my awakening to that whole thing, because I was watching it. I remember him coming down the elevator, and I was in that thing. I'm ex-military. I mean, I hang around with a lot of, vets. I at one point started a hospice for vets, ensuring no vet died alone. And, I'm deeply involved with, the military, and my dad was military. My sister was military.
Yeah, bless you.
So I saw
That's an
all
amazing
that.
thing to do.
Well, I just did my job. I'm nothing special. I know heroes. I'm not one. But anyhow, you just do your part. But you're surrounded by that. You get a different view with military eyes. You kind of do. So that's where I was. I was absolutely appalled at how our vets were being treated in the VA and all that. And I knew about Benghazi, and, it was before the movie, before the books. And so when I was watching that, I was just like anybody but her. I mean, I can't believe they're trying to feed us this garbage again. And I was watching the debates, and it was like, I can remember looking at my husband go, this can't be real. This is like, it's like a circus. How is this? How did we get to this point? And then, I had to come to that point. Which way are you going here? And I didn't have a choice. I mean, I voted for him and said, well, let's spin the wheel now, see what we get, And then it started to sink into me. I watched every move I could possibly watch him make. I started digging from behind the scenes. I wasn't watching the MSM as much as I was trying to get from other sources, because I wanted to know what he was doing. And when he stopped that second shipment of cash going that Obama was sending, and he stopped that cash, one of the first things he did, I went, hold on now. Now we got something. At the very least, he stopped that. And then I watched the next thing. And then he started getting on the oil. And he started like America First. And I'm like, wait a minute. Well, what did he say? America First what? And then he started with the oil. And we're going to produce our own oil. This is absolutely ridiculous, being beholden to other countries. We can produce our own. And that's what started my ball rolling with him. And I'm watching these things. And I'm watching him sign these EOs and undoing all the bad stuff that had been done. And that's what got me. And then I just started looking at all these alternative news medias. And that's when I stumbled onto Q. Probably, he'd already been to office for quite a while when Q came out that October. And I think Q had already been out. I probably hit it around the November point. He'd already been out about a month, the team anyway. And I started digging. I'm like, wow, this is deeper than I thought, But that was me. So when he came out and said fake news, I was like, yeah, he's right. They're not telling the truth here. And but I had known that before. So when he said it, it clicked with me. Do you know what I mean?
For me, yeah, I totally understand. You probably were a little bit more awake to that side of things, because in New Zealand, we hadn't been exposed to Benghazi.
Right.
We didn't have 9/11 happen here. All we saw here was the horrific tragedy. We didn't see all the questions that got asked afterwards. That was all hidden from us over here. I mean, yes, there was a documentary came out, I think, by Mike Moore, Fahrenheit 9/11, which was mind-blowing. And for me, I thought, how could it, as an American, I've sat there and watched all this happen, knowing that there was a jihad from a radicalized sect of Islam that had attacked America, and then Obama gets elected, and I thought to myself, and I'm not trying to be racist, but Barack Hussein Obama to me sounds a lot like a radical Islamic terrorist, just because I didn't know any better at the time.
Right.
Not trying to be racist.
Right.
Just he didn't seem like an African American presidential candidate. It just seemed so wrong, and I thought, how can the American people accept this? And then as I've got to know people through this movement over the last 2 years, I realized a lot of people didn't accept it. It was forced on them.
It was forced on, and it was all very well orchestrated. There was a cadence to the speech. He was very well taught. And there's people here now that you could lay all these facts out from his birth certificate. I mean, come on. And Donald Trump's been after his birth certificate like 11 years. Like, this guy isn't even born here. And then I talked to a very, very, very smart analyst who can look at something like that and go, listen, this was such a shoddy mess, this birth certificate, that they forgot to shut the layers off in the Photoshop, because if you took it and put it in there, all the layers would come to life. You could move them around. The font that they used wasn't even in existence back then. We had anons and analysts and stuff like that look at that and say, look, this font wasn't even in existence at the time this birth certificate was supposed to be made. None of it was true. And I got into a couple years before the election and stuff, I think it was in Obama's second term, something that people can look up now. I think it's still available on YouTube. Look up Butter Dazillion. That's the name of the person that was trying to get information about the Hawaii, the plane wreck, the birth certificate, and all that stuff. I was digging at that before all this. This was, Obama was still in office. And, I mean, it's just, oh, God. I mean, to see how we were, just the wool was pulled over our eyes. And anytime anybody lifted up their head and started to see the light, it was shoved back down in the mud again. It's been absolutely horrendous what's happened here and in other countries as well, because other countries were taken advantage of and, overrun. So the rabbit holes in that is amazing. The things that, were done in other countries as well. And now it just seems that this is our shot, man. I don't know how to put it into words. I mean, I don't know, a tenth of what a lot of people I've spoken to know. I know just little pieces of the cake here. And I can tell you that this is our shot. And it's not just America's shot. It's a shot for globally. This is a global movement.
It is. It's the shot heard around the world.
It is, absolutely.
And just to go back to something I said earlier, when I came into this movement, I'm going to be the first to admit I had a prejudice against Islam and religion in general. For me, growing up, I was as a young child, I went to Sunday school, and I have a basic. I mean, basically, I feel like I would be closest to a Christian. But over the last 2 years, what I've learned is that it's not the religion. So in regards to, say, Islam and radical Islam and jihad, it's not the good people on the ground every day living their lives that's the issue. The problem is we've got someone at the top who has usurped it and who has taken control of it, and they've radicalized it and turned it into a weapon. And I think this is a conversation we need to have.
Yes.
And because of the problem we get is we get people like the Anti-Defamation League and things like that want to stifle this conversation. But then I see really inspiring things like Bill Barr speaking at the Religious Broadcasters Convention and talking about religious freedom. And for me, I didn't even know what religious freedom would look like until I watched that Bill Barr speech. And I feel like I've been so enlightened, and such a weight has been lifted off my heart by knowing that it's not these people that we're at war with. It's not Muslims that are the problem. It's these people that are these evil people that are radicalizing these things from the top. And if you look at the Holy Land Foundation trial, which is what all this is going to stem back to, and a lot of people are going to realize this shortly, the Holy Land Foundation trial is the infiltration and radicalization of a Muslim Islamic sect within the United States. And if you just research that alone, you'll start seeing some of the answers as to why things have ended up like this.
And speaking from, I can't speak on that because I don't know that much about it, but everything that you're saying is 100% true and rings true with me from what I do know. And to me, I have to look back at when I was young and I was learning about the horrible things that were happening in the name of Christianity. And
exactly.
my mom, and my mom sat me down and said, "You don't understand. There are these radical groups that say they're doing God's work, that or Christianity, and they're hanging people in trees out here, And I mean, it was horrible. So that's in any group. It's in any group. I think it's,
and it's not a separate. It's not unrelated to the corruption at the top levels of our government. It's the same people doing the same awful things.
I mean, and you could also bring up the fact that, I know a lot of Catholics are some of the most devoted people I have ever seen. I have, my husband is one, my brother, my sister-in-law, devoted. I mean, all of the ritualistic, all of the constant walking in that belief, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And then the higher you get, you find out that, hold on, wait a minute. Priests are doing what to children? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And for years and years and years, this has happened. And then they just moved them to a different sect or a different place, and they weren't punished and they weren't stopped, and nothing was done for the victims. And you got to be kidding me. And
it wasn't an accident. It was. No. It's deliberate, and it's allowed. It's been allowed. It's no longer being allowed, but it has been in the past.
Yeah.
And it's not an accident. This wasn't just a random priest that did something wrong. It's a culture of corruption and usurpation within these organizations, and it's not, like you said, it's not just in Catholicism, not just in Islam, not just in Christianity or Judaism. It's in all of these religions, and as citizens, we all need to be aware of this and educate ourselves on it so that we can stop the harm, the horrific harm that comes from a child being abused.
Absolutely. Because here's the thing, Kiwi, if we back up and we get that 40,000 foot view again, and we look down and we start figuring, okay, this is happening here. Same thing, different uniform or different name. It's happening here. Same thing, different uniform, different name. Same thing, same thing. If you take a child and you break his trust, then you break his faith. Okay? Now you've broken his spirit. Okay? You've broken his, all of that. Everything that you try to build, a human being on. Faith, love, trust in your parents, trust in your elders, trust. And then through all of that child survives somehow by grace and just sheer will, survives. The person that's walking for the rest of his life is going to always have those holes punched in their soul, and your faith, the chances that you're going to go on and teach your children to have faith or to have belief in a religion or something that you can base your life rules on, it's gone. And who was it that said, give me a child at 6? Was it Stalin? Give me a child.
Oh, I forget.
Yeah. And that's where you want to hit them right there. Give me a child, and in a decade I'll have exactly what I want. And everybody will be so easy to be ruled. So this is also what's been happening. And then you add all the ritualistic, garbage and the, we're doing it for this or sacrifice or power or let me tell you something. And you
reinforce it with mainstream media echo chambers.
Yeah.
You have 4 or 5 different people telling you the same thing that isn't true, but you're going to believe it because you don't have any other information.
And everything, it's been a systematic deconstruction of the world. And and when you have people, we started in the beginning of this and we said, this is a spiritual warfare as much as it is any other kind of warfare for, just to fight for your own life and to fight for your own rights and your liberty, your pursuit of happiness, the Constitution doesn't guarantee you're going to be happy, but they say you can pursue it. People forget about that. But here, we have that. And, to all of a sudden, just over, the last decade of saying, well, we can take in these flood of people and, they have constitutional rights too. And it's not a crime to be an immigrant. Of course, it's not a crime to be an immigrant. It's a crime to go into any country illegally. There is a legal process to do. And people that have gone through that legal process know more about. They can recite to you more rules and bills of rights and everything than I can. I've lived here all my life. These people work hard to get the privilege to come into this country and be an American citizen. You can't just have people come over here and give them everything. And that's what was happening. They were getting, I'm working my butt off, 3 jobs to try to feed 2 kids. And I'm not, asking for welfare. I'm not getting housing payments. I'm not getting any of that. And when I went to go do my taxes, she said, you would have been better off if you just went on welfare because you're going to get taxed to death and have less money. And I said, well, what kind of parent am I being if I show my kids that you just, everything's handed to you, you don't work for it? What happened to that?
But if we just stop there for a minute and just analyze what happened there, we're being told by the media that we need to take these people into our country. They need help. They don't tell us the whole story. They don't tell us that our tax dollars went into a pallet on a plane, shipped into Iraq, where we left military equipment for rebels and groups to form uprisings.
Right.
And disturb these people from their homes.
Right.
I mean, they don't tell you that you're doing it to yourself, but you must now accept these people. They only give you a snippet of the information.
Right. And that's exactly true. And then they'll say, well, what happened to the Statue of Liberty? On the Statue of Liberty, it says, give us your poor, you're tired. Absolutely. But people who came to Ellis Island from other countries, there's not one group that you can mention that wasn't oppressed or impoverished. I mean, from the Irish to you name it, that came here to build a life with hard work from their hands and hacking it out of the wilderness and everything else you want to say. Nobody is saying that, but you have to go through it. Has to be the right way. Other countries have borders. Other countries have, have rules that you have to go through. Nobody's trying to be racist here. I will help anybody. But
we also have to be.
Go ahead.
We have to be responsible for our own actions and the actions of our own government.
Yes.
And if our own government, even if they're not telling us, but it's still a fact that they're directly influencing and destabilizing these countries.
Right.
and they're working with people and they're allowing those people to do it,
Mm-hmm.
we have to say, well, no, I don't consent to that. That's not what I want from my government.
Right.
Why hasn't anyone told me this was happening? I mean, when people realize this is happening, it's a pretty frustrating reality to wake up to.
Right.
They didn't just become immigrants, or they didn't just become impoverished
Mm-hmm.
overnight. It was, in most cases, a deliberate action taken by someone in a position of power within a government structure.
Mm-hmm. It was a plan, baby. All of it's been a plan. And, people are waking up to it and they're seeing it. And, if, like I said, if we don't get it done now, we don't get jobs back to people that, want to work, and give them a reason for that, and give them good products to buy with their money that they that they earned. We got into this thing where, we'll buy it really cheap, but it's going to break in a couple of months. We'll have to buy another one and another one and another one. I can remember as a kid, it was made in America was, we used to have Craftsman tools that if they broke, they'd replace them. Where's that gone? That got absorbed by something. They're probably junk now. All these different cars used to be built here, and now they're not. I mean, I can remember when my son was 6, now we're going back 22 years. He came to me in this large box shopping place, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. At 6 years old, he saw this. He brings me a little American flag, a tiny little American flag, and he goes, "Mom, why is this American flag made in China?" And I said, "Son, that's a good question. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right, does it?" He goes, "No, it doesn't seem right." And, you question that stuff. And it's not just one thing. It's all of these things. And all of these things were the systematic takedown of the world to get one group in power to treat us like, worker bees.
100%. That's definitely what it's about. It's about extracting the most from us that they can, and they with no cares given.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that's what we mean by sheep. I mean, we've been corralled and told to keep our heads down, and and just take it. And I think at one point, people in the older generation are looking back and going, I don't know what happened to this world. And the young people, they only know the way they see it and the way it's been shown to them. And, everything is so easily obtained via, say you want to listen to a certain kind of music. You can find that music and all you want of it by going to one place or, and gathering it for yourself. Where when we were young, we had to wait for it to come on the radio, or we had to save up and buy the album or the CD or the, or the cassette. And it was the music that came out. We were all talking about it at the same time. We had a group think, Monday morning going to school, we talked about the movie that was on, Sunday nights television, because we only had like 3-4 channels. I lived in New York and New Jersey. We only had like 3 channels, and everybody was talking about the miniseries that was on or the show that was on the night before. We all had something in kind of a common because there was only so much to be seen at one time, and now everybody can go in the direction they want. And it's so easy to get people off into these little groups, and they're not communicating
and become antisocial.
Yes.
Because you no longer have to see a human being. You no longer have to start a conversation. You no longer get invited to conversations because you didn't all watch the same show on Sunday night.
Right.
And you can't participate in the conversation because you are getting your own information from wherever you get it from, and you lose that sense of unity with the human race.
Mm-hmm. And they replaced being social with social media. And now you could just go to the social media and the echo chamber you want to go to, and you're going to talk about the things you want to talk about. And there's, in a lot of ways, that's really cool, and it's really good. And it's neat to get into something like, if you're into, paranormal, you can pull up paranormal podcasts, and that's all you have to listen to if that's what you want. It's so easy to obtain the information you're interested to. But at some time, we've stopped looking up, and it was easy to get a lot of these big things past our open eyes because we were only seeing the flashy stuff in front of us, and all this big stuff was walking by, and they were able to get away with it for so long. And now it's almost turning on them because we are able to talk about it. We are able to look into it. We are able to research.
Well, I think everyone who might not have been paying attention in the past is now paying attention, because the entire world just watched what Nancy Pelosi tried to slip into the emergency relief bill for this coronavirus outbreak.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, $25,000 to the, what was it, the orchestra, the JFK Center Orchestra or something?
$25 million.
It's $25 million.
25
million.
$25 million.
And what?
Yeah. JFK Theater.
But it wasn't even to pay it wasn't even to pay for the 110 musicians.
Correct.
They got fired. It was fat.
Mm-hmm.
It was fat to get recycled back into the DNC.
Yeah, and then they turned right around 3 days later, sent $5 million. The JFK, they donated $5 million to the DNC, to the Democratic National Party.
And so everyone's just seen this, and
that's money laundering.
That's gonna. It's theft. I mean,
yeah,
it's extortion.
Yeah, it is.
They held the people of the country who are sitting there with no idea where they're going to get their next check from. They've got no job. No hope. They're depressed, and you've got people like Nancy Pelosi doing that sort of thing. It's just enough to make a lot of people say, "What on earth is going on, and how do we fix it?"
Yeah, and if you wanted to see, and like I said, I don't have anything against any group. I mean, most of the people in my family have been Democrats. I think I probably was one at one point in time. I was always saying I was an independent because I always went for the person, not so much the party, if you know what I mean. I took people individually. I guess that's just what I do. And, and I'm looking at really smart people right now that are still believing the MSM and everything else. And they're saying, oh, no, she stopped him from doing such and such and all this. And I'm like, hold on a minute. Do you not see that this is supposed to be, we are in the middle of a pandemic crisis, whatever you want to call it right now. People are out of work. Small businesses are shutting down. Large corporations are shutting down. They're trying to keep us going so we can stay well, and a bunch of people don't catch whatever this is and die. They're trying to keep it down. And then they're trying to give us some monies that belongs to us in the first place, by the way. Give us some money back so we can pay our necessities, and we're able to do that. And they're putting stuff in for windage and all this other stuff. It has nothing to do with
it's the Green New Deal.
Yeah.
They're pushing the Green New Deal. They're trying to slide it in when the people aren't looking and when the people are desperate. And that's extortion.
It is, absolutely. And that's just the thing. It should have had nothing to do with that, people. I mean, everybody should have come together. It should have been one of these things where absolutely, let's not waste any time on this. These people need money now. This is America. They're the ones paying our paychecks. Let's get them some of their money back so they can continue on and buy groceries and take care of their children and their, and their families and stuff like that, and keep their businesses open. That's all it should have been about. If you want to know what our country would look like if any of those people were in control right now, go look at the states they're in charge of. California is an absolute mess. I'm sure there's beautiful places, but you look at the homeless and nobody's doing anything. Are you telling me that nothing can be done? I guarantee you, with people, look up a young patriot named The Persistence on Twitter and see what he's done. He has gotten volunteers together to go through and clean up some of these cities and gotten in trouble for it. Millions and millions of dollars are going to these states, and people, your people, American people, human beings are living in squalor in the streets. That should not be happening. Shouldn't be happening in any country. Sure as hell shouldn't be happening in America. I don't
Especially
care.
Not in 2020.
No.
I mean, I've lived, it's just insane.
It's absolutely insane. And how in the world did we get comfortable with that? How did we get comfortable with that? How did we get to the point where we could walk past somebody? I don't care. If it's a mental illness, there should be a facility that somebody can go to get help, to be able to get back on their feet, get rehabilitated if possible, at least be in a comfortable situation, and out with something. This is, for Pete's sakes, it's 2020, people. We can't figure this out yet. If it's drugs, if it's alcohol, if it's something else, it doesn't matter. If it's just, I hit a bad spell. Like we talked about some, father broke his leg and now they're living in their car and he's trying to, it's unbelievable. It should not be happening. And it certainly shouldn't be happening when you're telling me that we can't help those people on the streets. We can't figure out how to do that, but we can take a group of 150 people from another country and give them a house and money and medical and college and everything else. Stop the presses. Something's wrong.
100%. Absolutely. And I just want to mention that not everything in my journey my journey of waking up, I'm going to call it, has been negative. And a lot of people, when they first start to see this information, can be a little bit overwhelmed when they see exactly how bad things are. Mm-hmm. And I just want to let those people know that for everything negative that I've discovered, there's been amazing people I've met and amazing plans and amazing change, and things are happening, and they're happening really fast. Yes. And you can get out there and you can get involved in this change and be part of it. It's a really amazing thing.
It is. And that's the, and people call it, I've heard people call it hope porn. Like the names that we come up with for stuff is so funny. I've heard people say, oh gosh, those cute people sure must be tired from from moving the goalposts all the time. Well, let me explain something, folks. This stuff is happening, and it's happening in its own time, and there's a lot being done. And I always tell people, look back. For me, I'm in it for the kids. I'm in it for I'm in it for all of it. But the kids touch my heart. And I know it's bigger than that. If we could ever say a phrase like it's bigger than helping children who are being kidnapped or human trafficked, for Pete's sakes, But look at the human trafficking arrests in the past 3 years compared to the other administrations, all put together.
Around the world, they're global. It's a massive change. There's been a massive shift in the care factor of governments in relation to human trafficking. There's a big push.
Yes. And look at the amount of resignations from large companies. Why is that happening? Look at that. And if that doesn't convince you, look at how much money a lot of these people in Congress and in the Senate were worth before they got in Congress or the Senate. And then look at how much their worth is now. And ask yourself how somebody who's been working in Congress could make that kind of money doing just legal things. Yes, you're going to make some money from investments, and yes, you're going to make some from, real estate and things like that. But I'm going to tell you right now, you don't make $65 million on a book. It just doesn't.
Exactly.
It just doesn't happen. Especially as an upfront. So look into all those things, and then, like Kiwi says, look into some of the things that are all the wonderful things that seem to be happening. Jobs are coming back. Other countries are standing up. Look at Google some of the YouTube videos of young people standing in Hong Kong, holding up an American flag, singing the American anthem. Look at, young people in India and all around this world holding up where we go one, we go all. This is global. It's global, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. At the very least, people are starting to see that information is out there. They are starting to see there is a light at the end of this tunnel. And if we all just, walk it alone, walk it together, walk with a friend, or, in a live chat, or whatever you want to do, whatever works for you. You're not alone if you don't want to be. But know that we're all walking towards something really beautiful. And to me, that's a great awakening. It's like watching a sunrise slowly off the shore, It's beautiful. It's really cool.
100%. I wholly agree with that. It's one of the most beautiful and amazing times to be alive, in my opinion.
100%. 100%. And I've kept you on here so long, Kiwi, and I know you got to go to work. Bless your heart. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to tell us about this? I know that I'd like to get you back on again, if you don't mind, later on down the line, and talk a little bit about Tesla. And I hear that you're really interested in the works of Tesla and the studies and what that can...
Yeah, that'd be awesome if we could pop back in and have another chat. I've really enjoyed this, and I thank you for the opportunity to talk to your viewers, and I thank you, your listeners, for taking the time to listen to what we had to say.
Absolutely. And I know that you have a YouTube channel, and that sometimes you also do videos and put ideas out there, or something that you've been researching on. And, can we find you there?
You certainly can. And if you're looking for the deep research, I'd like to consider myself as a deep researcher. Mm-hmm. And you find that you're going onto a subject and you want to go quite deep into it, definitely look me up. It's Kiwi Patriot on YouTube. But for anyone who's new and is just something in this conversation's piqued their interest, I highly recommend just coming along to the In the Matrix with 3X's YouTube channel. And there's a show every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Mm-hmm. And just have a listen, jump into the chat if you want, say hello, and if you've got questions, answer. That's all I would suggest. If you've got anything in here that you found slightly interesting, mm-hmm. we generally cover all this sort of stuff on the show.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And usually the daily news, what's happening. It's a great community of people, and a lot of people that are in that chat, some of those people have their own shows, and they might be interested in something you want to focus on. So that's a great place to start. And I cannot thank you enough for taking this time. I think it's very interesting to get different views on this, because we all are individuals, but no matter where we live or what we're doing in our daily life, we're all part of the human race. And I think anything that gives the human race hope to have a better individual life, it actually makes the group whole that much better. We should be happy. We should be able to feed our kids and live our lives and smile a lot more. And I feel like the weight's being lifted. And my friend, over the years, you've lifted a lot of weight off of me. And I'm proud to call you my friend. And thank you for being there.
Thank you. You've been a wonderful friend. And this is, it's just the most unifying thing that I've ever experienced, to be honest. And for anyone who's had these inclinations that things weren't right, and they might have said something in the past and been shut down or ridiculed, that's not what we do.
No.
We're very open-minded. We're all a wonderful group of people now. We've been together 2 years, I think, as a group, and we're growing, and we're very diverse. There's all kinds of different people with different talents, different skills, mm-hmm. and it's just generally a really positive environment.
Absolutely. And you won't have anybody here dividing people by race or belief or color or thought. It's just, we're all here to learn and to see and to laugh and to enjoy good, some good music sometimes, and just be together and just feel good. And it's always an elation when you walk away. You feel like, oh gosh, that felt really good. It's like, big group hug from friends and stuff. So there's so much good in this. Don't be afraid. And if, like I said, like Kiwi said, just one thing sparks your interest, look into that one thing. Don't try to take this as a whole. Don't, we always say shovels are for digging, but feed this information with a spoon, tiny little bites.
Exactly. It's been a really awesome conversation, Cisco. Thank you so much, and thank you for being a wonderful friend.
Oh, you too, Kiwi. You have a wonderful day, my friend. I know, you're already into tomorrow, so I hope tomorrow's is good for me.
It's nice and sunny here tomorrow.
Oh, great. See, the future's bright, people. There you go. I love you so much, my friend. You come back soon. You hear me?
I love you too. I will. Thank you very much.
Good night, sweetie.
Good night.
Well, guys, so many thanks to Kiwi, to Kiwi Patriot, and everybody out there, Pseudonym, In the Matrix, Shady Groove. Oh, gosh, there's so many. I could just, I always forget somebody. But Fiona and Jackie Canella and Jojo K and just everybody. And that's what happens. You get in here, and I could probably sit here and roll off 100 names, and I'll still miss somebody. I've learned a little something from each person, and some things I learned what not to do, because some of these things can make you really angry when you start looking into them. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that and they got away with it, and nothing can be done and nothing's going to get done. And, people aren't going to pay for the things, the crimes they did. And it's not, I think that's one of the things that put people off a lot, because they'll say, well, everybody's yelling for, this person to, to pay for their crime, or that they committed a certain crime, and, they want to see him go to jail. You bet we do. You bet we do. I mean, isn't that the way it's supposed to be? There are laws, and, as a law-abiding citizen, we do our very best. But, if I'm speeding, if I'm doing a 55 and, on a 25 speed limit road, and a police officer pulls me over, I deserve the ticket. Nobody wants the ticket, but I broke the law. And if we didn't have laws, we'd be a lawless community. What would that look like? The Wild Wild West? So, yes, and there's nothing wrong with having laws and having people abide by them. The only time people get upset is when you're abiding by them and somebody else isn't, and they're getting away with it. And that's what creates that animosity, and that's what, causes people to go a little crazy, because, hey, that guy over there. And there had been a lot of people getting away with that. And, they need to go to, they have a trial. And if it's proven that they did something wrong, then they need this, whatever sentence, that crime comes with, And that's the way it's always been. And so, yeah, you're going to hear that. And you're going to hear that some really awful things have happened. And it's not for everybody, but it is your right, your choice to know. And if you start going down a pathway here and you're like, ooh, I don't think I want to go any further in that, it's okay to stop and back up and go down another direction that you are comfortable learning about. And that's fine too. This is your journey. You can choose to walk it or not walk it. You can just move on to the next episode and hear ghost stories and angel stories and everything else, and that's just fine. But I wanted to do my part. I can't be honest to you, my listener, if I don't tell you this is out there, and this information is here if you want it. And I wouldn't be honest if I didn't tell you about this, because it's so much bigger than me. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than all of us. Like we said, it's global. So I just feel like I'm doing my part in trying to put some information out there and trying to get you some good people to listen to from all different walks of life and all different personalities. But I'll tell you what, each one of us is wonderful, just wonderful people. Everybody has a different part in this, and different information, and a different way of looking at things. And I just think that's terrific. So we're going to keep doing this. I'm going to continue the Great Awakening series, and I'm going to keep getting people on here to come in and talk to you about it. And I hope you're listening. And I thank you so much for being out there. Now, as usual, I tell you a little bit else that's going on. My book's still out there. If you're looking for some good ghost stories, a couple of scary ones, and some really fantastic, I believe, miracles that happen too. Keep in mind, there's always good stuff that happens in the paranormal and supernatural too. That's in there, and the book is called We Are All Children in the Wilderness of the Afterlife, a guided tour through a haunted life. And that's my life. And Steve Stockton comes along with me on that. And he adds his own anecdotes and thoughts that he had after reading each one of my chapters. And we just left it that way. And it's real and it's spontaneous. And I love the way it came out. So that's available on Kindle and in paperback. And if you got the Kindle early, you should be able to get the revised version. We added a couple more chapters when we brought it back in paperback this time. And I had a couple more chapters I wanted to add in there. So that's really neat. I'm really proud of that. Also, we still have the TeePublic store if you want a Crispy mug or a Crispy t-shirt. Everybody loves Little Crispy, our mascot. That's there. And the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's Journey Through the Gate Paranormal Portal Podcast, because you might be listening to this on a podcatcher or iTunes or something. Go in there and just subscribe if you wouldn't mind. That's great because it really helps us get through. Remember, we had to restart that whole YouTube channel. So that's really nice. It helps to get out there to new listeners. And thank you so much. Thank you for all the kind comments. Thank you for all the new subscribers. Just fantastic. We've been getting a lot of good feedback. I love you all. If you're here for the Q, you're welcome. And if you're here for the other, you're absolutely welcome. I love you all so much. There's something in there for everybody. Dig down. There's like 52 different episodes, some really great conversations with people. Thank you so much for being here. Hit that subscribe button and hit that notification too, because I'm trying to put out more episodes and I don't want you to miss any if it's something you do want to hear. So again, thank you to Kiwi Patriot. You can find him at Kiwi Patriot on YouTube. You can find him very often, almost every day. He is a mod in the Matrix on the YouTube channel with In the Matrix and Shady Groove, and much love sent out to them. And try to get in that YouTube chat. There's a lot of cool stuff there you can do too. You can get some cool emojis and stuff if you want to help that channel. It's a really good channel. A lot of other ones out there too. I really love, like I said before, Jordan Sather. That's a different, just to hold it's everybody's got their own individual feel to their channel. So there's so many out there that I really enjoy. Craig Mason's Reasonable Conversation. Just so many different ones. I mean, gosh, they're popping up all over the place. Black, White, No Difference. That's a really great one too. There's a lot of good conversations there. Quite Frankly, it's another one on YouTube. I like to watch a Dilly Show. Dilly Show's usually via Periscope and Twitter every day at noon. I love that. He does not follow Q, and that's fine. He just gives the news, telling what's going on. It's another good news alternative that tells you exactly what's happening kind of behind the scenes, basically. And there's so many out there. So like Kiwi said, just hit the YouTube channel and see what comes up. If you hit just QAnon, you're going to get a lot of ones that come up and say this is a bunch of bunk and everything else. Don't take anybody's word for it. You go research for yourself. This is your journey. This is your choice. This is your walk. But I guarantee you, if you ever want to stop and pull over and talk to somebody about it, all the places Kiwi said, that's a great place in the live chats to go and talk to a couple of people and get their view on it, and then, continue on your own path. It's the best thing to do. I love you all very much. And like we said, we talked about some kind of scary things tonight that might upset you. But I tell you, we are in a spiritual war, guys. This is dark to light. But like I've always said in all of my conversations, anytime we talk about that, don't let that scare you. Because the tiny bit of light a tiny pinpoint of light can brighten up a darkened room. You understand? And you have that light within you. The choice to know is yours. And the choice in where you go is yours. And you have that power within you to beat any darkness. So remember that. And you're not alone. Where we go one, we go all. And don't forget, keep your feet under those covers and keep that closet door shut, because there are things that go bump in the night.